Welcome to Light Tackle Week. This week we're going to be dropping multiple videos with some start cast covering pretty much everything you need to know about light tackle fishing in the Chesapeake Bay. There will be pretty much leading up to our sales event coming up April the 13th. For full details on our sale, make sure you log into our website at anglersnapolis.com to see all the details on all the sales and items. Today we're with Lenny Rudow from Fish Talk, and we're going to be covering something really cool about the Chesapeake Bay, and that is light tackle, reef, and wreck fishing in the Chesapeake Bay. And I know you've done a lot of this stuff throughout the years and whatnot, and there's all kinds of cool things to touch into this kind of fishing, and not a lot of people actually do it in the Bay. I know most people think about wreck fishing out in the ocean. But so tell us a little bit about what this is all about here in the Bay.
Well, the first thing to recognize is we have new opportunities here, people, because historically you could catch black sea bass in the Bay and they'd be these little tiny guys. All of a sudden, the last couple of years, we've got these big keeper black sea bass roaming around on our wreck and reef sites, all the way from the Bay Bridge clear on down to the state line. So this is pretty darn cool, right? Yeah. New opportunity. And these are great fish to eat if you get the keepers.
Tastes great, yep.
Yep, you get great action. And there's so much diversity on these reefs. The reef sites are really super cool. They're full of little flounder, bluefish, rockfish, weakfish. Sometimes you get puffer fish. The diversity.
It's endless.
It is. It's just so fun. So first thing we should do before we dive into the tactics and the techniques, we should thank CCA for building these reefs. They do a lot of this work. Yep. And also the wreck sites we're going to talk about, and we're going to distinguish between the two because you do fish the two at different times. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Should we talk tackle first?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what we got here.
All right, well, here's a nice light tackle spinner. We're just talking about, is this a 3,500 here?
I believe it's at the 3,000 there, yep.
3,000, we've got 20-pound braid on there, 15 would be fine. Right. Of course, if we're going fishing on these wreck sites, we're going to snip this little guy off. He's fine for rockfish, but not exactly ideal in this particular scenario. Now, I would tie on the end of here a trace of fluorocarbon. Could be 20-pound test, could be 30-pound test, but these reef sites, you got to remember the reef balls down there, they're made of concrete. And they've got oyster shells growing on them, so they're very jagged. Even though the black sea bass aren't exactly huge, it's not like you need 30-pound leader to keep from breaking them off. You need that leader on there because your line will be rubbing up against this stuff.
Exactly.
And braid, as we know, when it goes against concrete,
it's gone.
Yeah, it doesn't last long. So you absolutely must have your leader on there. Now,
and do you have a preferred length on the leader? Like you will say any kind of size is fine, or?
I'm going to say 3 feet.
3 feet.
Is probably about what I tie on. Could be a little more, could be a little less.
Gotcha.
Not going to be a huge deal. The rod itself, I like a really light rod. Some people might want heavier than this. You know, it's not exactly a cannon, right? But I like going light. And one of the cool things about this kind of fishing is you don't need a ton of weight to do it, as opposed to, say, fishing on a wreck site offshore,
where the current's really crazy and heavy.
Right, now you're putting on ounces and ounces of lead. You don't have to do that. So, let me show you what I love. I love these guys. The GI Rain Minnow.
Great, they work for everything, don't they?
They are perfect for this. Now, I grabbed a couple off your shelf before. I intentionally grabbed a silver and a blue because I find that most of the time, the silver's the ticket. There are some days when blue, for some weird reason, that kind of dull blue color, just seems to do better. I have no idea why.
Oh.
No idea why, but sometimes it does. I grabbed one of these too. This is just fine. Another spoon here with a single hook and a trailer there. And I pulled this guy out to show what not to use. And this is all about that treble hook.
That's a big no-no there.
Yeah, you really don't want to be using the treble for two reasons. Two reasons. The first is you know you're going to snag, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
that's 3 hooks in one. So
right.
Of course
you're going to snag a lot more often. The other thing is those black sea bass, they have really rubbery mouths. They're really tough. And while you can get keepers, you're probably going to catch 6 to 10 to 1 throwbacks. A lot of little guys on these reefs. Plus those little flounder you're going to catch, which the vast majority are going to be undersized. So we do not want to tear those fish up with these treble hooks. And I'm telling you right now, people, one day you might pull out one of these spoons with a treble, and drop it down there just because it's close at hand and it's easy to do, and you're going to pull up a sea bass and you're going to fight to get that hook out, and you're going to feel bad about it.
Yep. Especially when you're catching that many, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other advantage to that is some of these single hooks are dressed. So a little more flash, I guess. You know, you notice any difference with that?
Right, we got the tinsel on there. Yep. I think it definitely helps at times, you know. It's good to have that little extra. Now, what gives you a lot of extra?
Oh, man, there you go.
Fishbites. So, you know, historically, we all buy a box of squid when we go sea bass fishing, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You can cut up the squid, put it on these hooks. You're going to catch plenty of sea bass. But my favorite is now the crab flavor fish bites, although some days the shrimp flavor fish bites is really hot. And I tell you why I love this stuff. You know that I got a new boat not terribly long ago, right? What do I not want to do on my boat?
Mess it all up,
That's
get all
right.
dirty.
I don't want to get
Stinky.
squid ink all over the place. That is the last thing I want to do. And so I got curious about the fish bites, and I spent 2 days last year fishing with at least 5 people on the boat, everybody trading baits, and we fished all day long with fish bites versus squid, and then we also did bull minnow because
there's some minnows
sea
down
bass
there.
really they like those bull minnow. So what we found was 50-50. It was even up. Absolutely. It was just dead even. So when you consider the mess factor, plus the fact that these don't have to be refrigerated, you throw them in a drawer.
Keep them on the boat, pretty much.
Right. You go to my boat right now, and it's not the right season for this yet, folks. But you go to my boat right now, pull open a drawer, you find about 6 bags of those. Because you can leave them there.
It never hurts to have them, right? I mean, everything kind of eats a fish bite in a way.
Yep. I absolutely love it, and they're clean. And easy to use. Just snip them off, fill up. I throw them in a cup holder for everybody on the boat. So you got 20 of them sitting in there. Everybody just grabs them one by one. So then what do you do with them, right? Well, this is not at all a time when you want to jig vigorously like you would for rockfish.
Right. None of that crazy movement.
Right. No snapping. What you really want to do is just drop that guy down to the bottom until it touches, and then lift your tip about an inch. Lift your tip up about a foot, maybe 2 feet. Hover it there for a little bit. Drop it 6-8 inches. Lift it 6-8 inches. Just a slow little yo-yo. And the reason you want to keep it off bottom, as opposed to tapping bottom itself every time you go down, is because you will snag a lot less. It'll happen a lot less. Now, we should mention, these reef and wreck sites, they are covered with sea squirts, right? Sea squirts are pretty easy to jerk off if you snag one, but then you got a sea squirt stuck on your hook. So when you're doing this, if you feel a little resistance and then it pulls free, just reel it up and check your hook. There's a good chance you got a mess of sea squirts on there, and that isn't going to work. So down, slow jig, you feel a bite, immediately, bam, set that hook. You don't want to give it time to eat, no waiting. I have found, interestingly, the sea bass in particular really seem to like a slow tide.
Really?
Yes, when that current is ripping, they don't hit as well. You'll still catch some fish,
Right.
but they don't hit as well. Big giant advantage you can give yourself is if you can hold your boat in position. Historically, we do this with an anchor.
Or the new stuff, right?
If you've got spot lock on your trolling motor and you drop that off the bow, that is by far the very best way to fish these reefs, because you can plant the boat, you snag 1/10 as much because you're not moving around. Yep, you're not swinging, you're not drifting. And an interesting thing about these fish, they don't move around a whole heck of a lot. So a lot of times, you'll stop in a spot. Let's say you got 4 guys on board, right? Everybody catches 2 or 3 fish, and then the bite just disappears. What do? Well, you just press the button on the spot lock, you move the boat over 10 feet, and start all over again.
Right, trying to find them.
Right, you can work your way through the reefs, across the wrecks. Oh, and I almost forgot, I wanted to mention the difference between the reefs and the wrecks. These fish will be up shallow on some of the shallower reef sites, Tillman Reef, Cedarhurst. They'll be up there in the warm months. Once it starts to chill out, you get into late September, early October, they'll start to shift deeper. Reefs like the Gooses, the drop off at the Stone Rock, areas like that, they'll go deeper and deeper. And then when it gets really cold out, say November, they're going to be in really deep water. You got to look for those barge wrecks
Not
The
deep.
shipwrecks, right, we're talking 40 to 60 feet of water. So they really slide deep at that point.
So Lenny, quick question with that. Now that we're talking about depth and whatnot, weight size on these metals. How do you select that? Like, what sizes will you recommend going with? You know, when you're fishing shallow or deeper. I know, you know, we carry anything from like a quarter ounce all the way to like 2 ounces.
So I pretty much stick with that 1 ounce rain minnow. I find that that does the trick in most situations. Really late in the year, when you've got a strong current running, you will need to upsize that. And 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces is going to be plenty.
Gotcha. So that's awesome with the, you know, weight sizes and whatnot. And the other thing I will say for most anglers out there, they're not familiar with any of this stuff. How do you find these reefs? Like, is there anywhere you can look it up? You know,
Yeah, I'm
maps,
so glad you mentioned
websites?
that. So glad you mentioned that. The state of Maryland has a reef site map.
Awesome.
So if you Google Maryland Chesapeake Bay reef sites, it'll pop right up. You can find it. It'll give you locations, GPS coordinates, or you can go to fishtalkmag.com, our website,
You got 'em there.
and just punch reefs into the search box in the upper right-hand corner, and we've got tons of articles that detail some of these specific reefs, and also some broader ones that just show you exactly where the different reefs can be found.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's a big thing for everybody out there, obviously, trying to find these things. And besides the point there, I guess sonar, right? To really kind of dial in where you are.
Oh yeah, you
and
got to
find
be
them.
able to see it. Got to be right on top of it. The good news is there are lots of these reefs. They're all over the place, and they're all clearly identified, and you know they'll be easy to find. Any of the CCA reef sites or the Mary sites they used to be, all those sites will hold these fish at the appropriate time in the season.
Nice. That's awesome. So I guess that's all we have for you guys here. Thank you, Lenny. Plenty of awesome tips here from Lenny. You know, he's out there all the time catching these fish. So thank you for, you know, watching. And remember, sale is April 13th. We're going to be dropping all these videos starting April 6th. There's going to be 2 videos coming out every day, so make sure you tune into our social media platforms to watch all these videos. And remember, our sales is going to be pretty awesome sales, honestly. They're going to be 15% off, you know, rods and reels, and we have an extra special offer where if you bring in a combo to trade in, you will get an extra 10% off for any kind of purchase in the store during the sale. So great savings. Make sure you come by and check them out. And thank you, Lenny, for being here today with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.